What is good, Tesla family? It's Ray J back with another video. And in this one, I want to break down what's going on with Tesla, SPY, Nvda, the QQQ, and a couple of other tickers. I'm also going to talk about why tomorrow is going to be a very important day for Tesla. We have earnings coming out, and how this may affect the share price moving forward. But before I break down all this information, before I get into any more details about all this news, all this data, and the charts for Tesla and the others, let me just mention a couple of things. I am personally not a financial planner, so take nothing I say as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please check out the Weeble link, which is down below and in the description. If you sign up for Weeble and deposit $500, you're guaranteed 20 free stocks. If you deposit $25,000 or more, you're guaranteed 75 of them. And the offer ends very soon in just about 8 days. Anyways, for Tesla, as you guys can see, Tesla's been range bound for the large majority of the day. We have this support at 140 that held us up for the majority of the day. We have this resistance very close to this 142 and also 144 zone, which is where we got this little sideways channel that developed. But the question is, what's going to happen after earnings? When is Tesla going to be announcing its earnings, and what should you be watching for as time goes on? So I'm going to be first talking about data and such before I break down Tesla specifically. As you guys know, for tomorrow, we have some very important earnings. Before the market opens, we have GM, UPS, GE, and PepsiCo. Then after the market ends up closing, that's when Tesla's going to announce its earnings. Usually it's about an hour to an hour and a half after the market close. So we'll give this some time. Tesla will be making some very important claims about their guidance, about what's happening with their company, their margins and such. And these investors are going to be watching this like hawks. It's going to be very important. It's going to have a big effect on the share price, and I can't wait to see how this ends up going. But then don't forget that later on for the week, for the overall market, we have Boeing and AT&T announcing their earnings. Not to mention, after the market closes on Wednesday, we have Meta and IBM and Ford. For Thursday, we have Royal Caribbean Group. And then after the market closes, we have Microsoft, Alphabet, Intel, Snap, and Roku. So we have lots of big tech earnings, lots of stocks from the Magnificent Seven coming out. And we're going to be looking for some big volatility for the markets during these days. For Tesla specifically, it's going to be very key for them. As you guys may have heard in my earlier videos, Tesla has cut a lot of its prices. They cut their prices all over the world. They cut them in the USA. They cut them in Europe, many different European countries, especially Germany. They also cut their prices in China. So that's a sign of weakness because right now we're starting to see the Chinese sales declining. They're actually worse than 2023 levels in the video I showed you guys in the morning. So I just want to make it clear that Tesla has a lot of hardships. Tesla has high interest rates, and these are continuing to feed into their margins and make things very hard for demand. Tesla has once again gone down the route of cutting prices like crazy. We saw more than $2,000 price cuts across the globe for their Model X's, Model Y's, and Model S's, more towards the Model S's for like the other countries. And for the USA, it's all three models. That is some very, very big news. On top of this, they also cut their FSD price by 33%. It used to be $12,000 for the full subscription. Now it's $8,000. So they're cutting prices as much as they can, trying to get those sales back up. And this just goes to show that they're kind of struggling with these demand issues because of these higher interest rates. Now, for earnings, earnings are going to be a make or break for Tesla. I can't wait to see what's going to happen. Currently, Tesla's down about 43% since the last time they announced their earnings. And this is not the best of news for them. When they announce their earnings, we're going to be looking to see not just how well they do in terms of EPS and revenue, because remember, Wall Street has some very high expectations, but what is their guidance? What are they telling us about the future? Are they going to be telling us they're going to be cutting their overall guidance for the year? Are they going to be increasing it? Are they going to increase their projections as time goes on? Are they going to be cutting them? What on earth is going to happen? I want to be talking more about that later on. That's going to be very, very key for Tesla. I'm not going to go over the specific things for earnings. I went over this over the weekend anyways. I'm going to talk more about that tomorrow, what the EPS expectation is. I think I saw a lot of them at about like 55 cents per share for EPS, and similar numbers to what we saw previously in terms of revenue, to previous quarters, if anything like that. But that's going to be key for Tesla. We'll have to wait and see what the numbers look like, and then their guidance is going to be very important. I can't wait to see how things look. I am kind of apprehensive simultaneously because, as you guys know, things are not the best right now for the entire EV sector. So once again, not going to make any presumptions. I'm not going to say that, hey, they're going to be good, they're going to be bad. We don't know that. Let's just be patient. Let's see how they look, and let's just kind of like react to the data. That's the way to go about this, in my opinion. So for the overall market, okay, there's a lot of news coming out involving Israel and Iran. As you guys know, in the past, things were very, very tense. Right now, things are cooling off a bit, and that's part of why the market kind of like is starting to rebound a little bit. We need more confirmation for there to be bigger moves, of course, but let me just make it very clear that the situation is kind of like not as tense as before. I wouldn't necessarily say it's completely cleared just yet, but it's just not as tense, and that's a good sign so far. In terms of data for Tuesday, which is going to be tomorrow, April 23rd, look for some volatility at 9:45 a.m., 15 minutes after the market opens. That's 9:45 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, by the way. We have the S&P Global Composite PMI coming out, the S&P global manufacturing numbers, then services numbers, three important sectors. This is going to be very key for inflationary data and for us to understand how the economy is looking. So we'll see what the PMI numbers look like. Then we have new home sales, more manufacturing numbers and shipments coming out 30 minutes after market open at 10 a.m. So watch for volatility for the first 15 and 30 minutes of market open tomorrow. We'll see what the numbers look like. And then we have more data coming out. We have the 42-day bill auction and the 2-year notes auction also coming out at 11:30 a.m. and 1 p.m. Kind of minor, might not cause the biggest of moves, and then we'll see how things go. But this is going to be the last like super important data day until I would say Thursday. So we have some time for data. Once all this data is out, the market's going to kind of focus more on earnings until Thursday when we get more GDP numbers. But for now, watch for volatility at these times. The market is currently getting closer to neutral as we're starting to see buyers defending. We're a little bit less fearful than before compared to the previous close. Now, market momentum is just back to neutral as we're seeing the market trying to hold some key supports as the S&P 500 is trying to get back above 5,000. Additionally, if you look at the charts, the put and call options positioning is shifting. You see, everyone was buying puts. People were betting the market was going to tank. This and that was happening. So when everyone started buying these puts, the ratio has gone up. You guys could see that. Market makers may have a different idea. That could be part of why we're getting a bounce now because everyone's expecting this big crash. And now, with everyone buying puts, they might try to squeeze some shorts again. That might be why the market's trying to bounce a little bit. Market volatility is also kind of neutral right now. We'll have to see if this shifts. We're approaching the 50 daily moving average for now, and we'll see how things go from here. With that being said, for Tesla, two more things before I break down the charts. Number one, we're going to be looking at the data from Tradedics. You guys can see that Wedbush gave Tesla basically an outperform rating, saying it's going to outperform compared to the market. Deutsche Bank downgraded Tesla from a buy to a hold. On top of this, the price price ratio is sinking. Now, this is dropping because Tesla is weak. I want to make that clear. Tesla is very weak right now compared to the market. Tesla has been underperforming for the last few months and it's continuing to do so. It's gotten weaker than before. On top of this, Tuesdays do tend to be green 51% of the time, but none of this data really matters at this point because it all depends on earnings from this point. So we'll have to see how things go. Finally, we had 106 million, 107 million almost in volume. That's well above average. And our overall price versus short volume is dipping just a bit. That's quite important. So, what do I see for Tesla? What is my personal view of the charts? I'm going to break that down from this point on and talk about the charts. For Tesla, the daily's showing a little bit of life. If we do break past 144, we do have a gap to fill all the way up to about just under 147 on the daily time frame. That could get filled if you manage to break resistance. That's one possibility. I'm not going to be too worried about this move though, because let me just be frank. Whatever happens tomorrow during the market open doesn't matter. It doesn't matter because the big move is going to happen after the market closes, after Tesla announces its earnings. So we'll see if that causes a big bounce or not. That's going to be very important. For SPY, give me one second, guys. Sorry. SPY is also on the daily chart showing some signs of a balance, but we have to break past 502 for confirmation. On the QQQ, it's very similar. It's trying to rebound. We have a gap to fill up to about 423.5, so it might try to rebound if we break past 420. So I'm seeing some life on the chart's daily time frames. Just want to call those out. Let's go back to my hourly time frame so I can break down some levels for you guys. For Tesla, all right. So what's good about Tesla, at least for now, is the fact that it's trying to hold this 140 resistance. 140 support, excuse me, the 140 support. We have resistance at 142. If this breaks, watch 144. We have to get back above 144 to turn bullish, and then we could try to fill this gap just under 147. If we're bearish, you want to see it lose 140, it starts sinking to 138 and 136. Overall, I'm seeing some potential in the charts, and we'll have to give this some time. However, what usually happens before earnings is we might see a little choppy amount of price action. I think that Tesla might try to push for 144 tomorrow, maybe go a little higher. I mean, it could make an attempt to fill the gap, but then I think it's going to come down, just chop around a lot. I think there's going to be a lot of range bound price action. It could try to break past 144, fill this gap, and come back down, just trade sideways in the 140s. It's not that Tesla's like bouncing like crazy. It's just a small move to the upside before we trade sideways. I see that as a possibility because we're already down so much, so it doesn't really matter as much. Tesla already dipped so much. It's not like it's running very hard approaching its earnings, so that doesn't really matter. And then what's going to matter more is what happens during its earnings. If we get really bad earnings, there's a gap to fill at 123 for Tesla. It could easily fall to the 120s, if not below that. If we get good earnings, we could easily fly up past 160. So I'll be very patient just to be safe. We'll have to see what Tesla does. In my personal opinion, for now, we're just going to focus on the short-term time frame, which is the possibility of Tesla going up to 144 and trading sideways, and then we'll see what earnings causes from there. For SPY, on the other hand, I'm seeing a little bit more potential than that of Tesla. SPY is trying to uptrend right here. We're trying to make higher highs and higher lows, but we need to see confirmation and a break of 502 to turn bullish. Let's see if we could try to hold above 497. If we hold this and try to bounce, look at 502. If that breaks, we could easily see 505 then 507. My guts does favor that somewhat more if we kind of come down a little bit and try to bounce towards 505 to 507. But just to be safe, give this a little bit more time. If we lose 497, we could turn back to bearish and try to fill our gap back down to 494. But I don't really favor that. I think we might dip a little bit and then try to push back up to 502. And then we could be looking for a move to about 505 and 507 over the next couple of days. For the QQQ, this has a slanted inverse head and shoulders. We're trying to rebound a bit, and we have a gap to fill at 523 all the way up here. I think that the QQQ could retest 417 and try to bounce, and we might be looking for 423 very, very soon. If we break past 420, that's going to be your confirmation of this thing trying to push higher. It may take a couple of days, and this could be heavily dictated by big tech like Meta, the other big tech earnings coming out. But just to be safe, we'll wait and see. If we lose 415, we could turn back to bearish, but my gut is telling me we might try to see a little rebound first beforehand, since we already dropped so hard and the market structure is kind of shifting, especially on the 4-hour time frame. So I suspect we might be seeing a little dip, retest of 416 or so, and a push all the way back up to about 420. If that breaks, look for 423 plus. That is a strong possibility on the triple Q. Not just because of the triple Q, but also because of Nvda. Nvidia is turning bullish right here, trying to get this break. If we break past 795, look for 805, then about this 815 area above our 50 EMA. If we end up losing support at 780, we could dip a little bit towards the 770s, but I think that there's potential for us to try to push towards 800 or so, at least to 810. So I do see some potential in Nvidia. I find it to be very, very probable. For uh, Apple, in my opinion, has potential to test 166. If we break this, I could be looking for a bigger push here. This does look like an inverse head and shoulders as well, a nice accumulation structure. I think that 166 could be coming. If that breaks, 168 is going to be our next target. Apple might get a slight rebound looking at the current technicals. All right, so I just want to make that very, very clear. The market is still showing some potential, some life. Now, let me just go over a few more tickers real quick before I conclude this video. Once again, guys, for Tesla, there could be a little attempt for it to try to retest 144 and then try to rebound, but whether it makes a big move or not doesn't really matter. It all depends on its earnings. Anyways, let's talk about a few more. In my previous video, I said that Palantir would most likely test 20.5 to 20 and then try to rebound. That is almost exactly what happened, right? That's almost exactly what happened. I think that it has potential to try to maybe retest 20.8 and then start pushing towards 21.18, if not the mid 21s. So I think there might be a little dip, then a bounce and a push higher. That's very possible for Palantir. For, let's see, Supermicro, this is starting to turn a little bit, at least as of right now. If we break past 730, we're going to be looking for a push towards 750. I think there's potential for this to push a little higher. I find that that's to be very, very probable. Supermicro has potential to bounce. For Rivian, we could be retesting 8.81. If that breaks, we're going to be looking for a push towards $9 flat. Also, this imbalance fill at 9.12. So I think this might try to rebound. I do see potential for this nice double bottom leg structure. I think we might try to push all the way here to fill this gap. That's a real possibility. For SoFi, I'm seeing potential for this to try to push towards 7.3. If this breaks, we're going to be looking for about the 7.4 area. I know it's a little bit tight right now, right? It's in a very, very structured range, but I see potential for this to try to rebound a little bit. For the IWM Russell 2000, I think that we're going to be testing this resistance at 196.5. If that breaks, look for 198. In my video yesterday, I said it's either going to test 192 and then bounce or hit 190 then bounce. That's very close to where this thing ended up bottoming in the 191s before it tried to bounce, exactly as predicted. Technicals were correct on this. It did try to push from here. For AMD, this is trying to rebound a bit. So we're going to be looking for a test of 150. If we break that, then we could be slowly trying to get back up towards 154. I see potential in this, at least for now. For ARM could actually fill this imbalance up to 96. If that breaks, look for 102.5. I think there's a very good chance this might try to rebound, so we'll have to see how that ends up going. But I see potential in this nonetheless. For Coinbase, we're in a critical place because Coinbase likes to reject off 226 to 227. It likes to reject off here. It also likes to get bought up at 208. But in this case, we could be forming like a triple bottom. If we break past 227, look for a push for 232. And then we're going to be testing this trend line once again. If we break this, we turn back towards 240. That's going to be a big push if we break this trend line. If we fail to do so, we're going to be rejecting. So watch for this very carefully. But I do see a test of 232 coming at the very least. For Amazon's turning a bit. Watch support at 176. If we hold this, look for a push towards 179, eventually 181. I do see potential for this to go up towards 180 at least, but we have to be a little bit open-minded just to be safe. So I think that 181 is a possibility if we break past 179. Let's see if we end up getting that push towards higher resistance on Amazon. For Meta, Meta right over here is in a very, very interesting place. You guys can see that we have this downtrend. We might be approaching basically resistance right over here at 485. Meta also has its earnings approaching very soon. So generally what happens is it does like to push a little bit approaching it. So I wouldn't be surprised if we test 485. If it breaks this, yes, it could go up to about 492, but I'm not really counting on it. It's not looking as strong as it has in the past, but I do see a little bit of potential nonetheless. For Microsoft, going to be looking for a push towards 406 if we break past resistance at 402. So watch 402. If that breaks, look for 406. I see potential in Microsoft from here. For Google, I'm actually seeing a little bit more potential. We could be looking for about 158 to about 160. I could see 160, this imbalance fill up here if we do push a little bit higher. So I'll be watching to see if that ends up being the case. For the VIX, I just want to call out that the VIX is looking a little bit more bearish right now because we're below our 50 EMA on the 4-hour time frame. Why is this significant? Because the trend is trying to shift a little bit. And if we continue to fall, I'm going to be looking for support at 16.5. Around that area, if we lose this, I could be looking for a dip towards 15.19 to 200 EMA again. If the VIX does turn and continues to fall, this could be because of the market potentially pushing. So that there is a possibility of that. The 10-year treasury yield is kind of flat, which shows signs of tight resistance around 4.7. This shows us that it's not really breaking out as much, or it's not really falling as much, kind of stuck in the middle for now. So we want to give this a little bit more time just to see how things go. And then last but not least, we have the dollar index. This is hitting resistance around, let me just double check this. This 106.5 zone is starting to reject a bit. If we lose 106.1, look for a dip all the way down towards 105.83. If we do dip towards that, this could be a little bit helpful for the markets and the broader markets moving forward. With that being said, guys, tomorrow's going to be a very important day. Tesla has its earnings. As you guys can see on the 4-hour, Tesla's been dipping like crazy. We're trying to base at 140. It's a very, very key support. There is a chance that Tesla could attempt to hold that, maybe rebound just a little bit, at least for tomorrow. But I do expect a lot of choppy price action, maybe in an attempt to try to push to at least 144 again before trading sideways. Maybe filling the gap. It depends if that breaks or not. But I'm not really expecting anything too crazy. The bigger move is going to happen after Tesla's earnings come out. That's going to be key for the share price. All right, so get ready for tomorrow, guys. Maybe rest well, sleep well, do whatever you have to do, at least to mentally prepare yourself for what's about to come to Tesla. And no matter what happens, remember, the future is still bright for the company. I'm still a huge bull for the long term. Yes, things are difficult right now, but this is just giving us another beautiful opportunity. All right, so with that being said, have a great day. I'll see you guys very soon tomorrow before the market opens to report on some data and then talk about how the charts are looking. And get ready for Tesla's earnings. It's going to be huge for today. All right, for tomorrow, excuse me. So get ready, do what you have to do, and I'll see you guys very soon tomorrow morning. Thank you for listening, and peace out.